my stars, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Basil, and today I am reading Chapter 3 of Impact Takes Control by Rekka_77 on AO3. Chapter 3, Jade's Dagger. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't anywhere familiar. He was in a dark place. He couldn't see anything in front of him. He couldn't even see most of his body. He tried to yell, but the shadow stuff over his mouth prevented him from speaking. What exactly is going on? Well, this is certainly unexpected. You're not what I expected from the ninth holder. Oh. A woman's voice said. It sounded steady, but he could detect the anger behind it. Oh boy, he didn't like the sound of this at all. You pretended to be civil, but behind that, you're a serial killer villain whose only desire is thrilling experiences. I can't believe you managed to hide this from Toshinori. Really, he's such a dumbass sometimes. He looked around for the source of the voice and saw an angry-looking woman in a black costume with a yellow cape, floating in the air. I can't believe a villain has gotten a hold onto One for All. This is possibly just some nightmare. All Might had described his mentor, and this woman looked like the description. Wait, nightmares usually don't work like this, right? What on earth was this place? Maybe some nightmare quirk? He pinched himself sharply on the arm, jerking him into fake wakefulness when he was laying down in Recovery Girl's office, or the rooms adjacent to it. One of those. He was in a hospital bed. That's all that matters. It was pretty late. The sun was shining low in the sky, coloring the sky a rainbow of colors in a beautiful vista. Damn, it was already dusk? Well, he should really head home at this point, because there's no reason for him to stay out here any longer. He could feel where his injuries had been, and fuck, he'd really done it now, hadn't he? Of course he had to pull something like that, and now everyone back at High Alliance is going to have all sorts of questions for him. He looked around to see if there was anything better than a hospital gown to wear. His gym clothes weren't present, but if he recalled correctly, standing up, he fell around the edges of the walls until he found the hollow space. Pulling apart the panel that secured it, it revealed a small amount of old medical supplies, in addition to a set of his clothes he stored in there. Taking them out and hitting them against his bed to get rid of any dust. He closed the compartment and quickly changed. Of course, he'd have to come back later and restock, but that shouldn't be too bad. But his bad luck hadn't run out for the day, because just as he finished getting changed, Recovery Girl strode in, looking at him with a slightly surprised expression. I was wondering when you'd finally get the clothes out of that compartment. So, Sonny, we're going to have a talk about some things. Nope. He got up to leave, but as he was doing so, Recovery Girl said something that made him pause. We can talk to Aizawa instead. And Recovery Girl managed to find the worst option. Actually, the worst might be Mezou, or Detective Tsukuachi, or All Might. He didn't know if he could face All Might anytime soon, so he sat back down. Now, I won't reveal too much, but I was very worried where you were facing off against Shoji. And as the fight went on, I'll admit, I got curious. I know you've been training with All Might and Gran Torino for quite some time, and both of them are very good at what they do, but your level of skill is a bit beyond what I'd be expecting. Well, I didn't get training from All Might, I've been thinking about tactics and fighting since I wanted to be a hero. And along the way, I guess if you've practiced enough times the same motions, you get pretty good. Also, my mind was running like a mile a minute, and if it hadn't been for the fact that Shoji's arms were connected to the skin, I would have lost. And that wasn't even a lie. With the combinations of limiting motions and the obvious weakness they presented, if Shoji didn't have those, he'd have to face down a barrage of strikes that would have been impossible to defend against. And Shoji was far from inexperienced. The guy had some skill. Well, this was legitimate training this time, but you're getting injured far too often for my liking. I've seen your fights, Midoriya. You don't defend yourself at all, and instead go on a full attack. One for All may grant you speed and durability, but you're no use to civilians in danger. If you have an arm missing because it turns out the villain you've been fighting has a secondary attack you didn't notice. Even All Might has to be wary, Midoriya, because there's all sorts of wary or crafty prepared villains can turn the tide. Sometimes there are both, and we're in real danger. Now, here are some gummies. She brought out a Pez dispenser and gave him some gummies. These will give you enough energy to get through the day, but have a good night's sleep, but because you will need it. He got up to leave, but Recovery Girl raised her hand and he sat back down. Honestly, All Might's self-sacrificial nature was what resulted in his current state. Now, I'm not saying to be selfish, but you can't keep pushing your body to the edge of total collapse every time, because as resilient as the body is, there's only so much your cells can take. All Might, for example, is probably going to die before the age of 70, simply because his body is so broken down. You've seen him walking around, haven't you? He has seen All Might walking. It's slower, much slower than an ordinary person usually is. And the former hero can only jog or do other exercises in short bursts, barely a minute long. And he heard that All Might can still summon the strength for his muscle form for barely a second. But every time he does that, he loses a month of his life. Scary shit. I don't want you to end up not even 60 and already using a cane. As much as Toshinori is stubborn, he needs to learn that while the mind and quirk are often fully charged and ready to go, the body is often not as resilient. As a lesson you do well to learn. I'm going to recommend weekly counseling sessions with a licensed therapist so we can get at the tangled mess of thoughts and emotions behind that thick skull of yours. He nodded, mostly because there was no way out of this. Can I go now? I didn't mean to go on a rant, dearie. I care about all my students in these walls, and I don't want you to throw away your life. You're worth more than that. Trying as hard as he might, he couldn't help the tears welling up in his eyes. And then he got up and rushed out as fast as he could, heading to the locker room to pick up his spare clothes, and a few other things he left in there. He didn't have time to think about what Recovery Girl had said, so he was running. He'll handle this all later. There was too much stuff he had to do right now. Chiyo looked on as Midoriya ran out of her office, tears streaming from his eyes. Something was going on here. And whatever picture it was painting, it certainly wasn't a good one. She needed to get to the bottom of this, and fast. I can't believe Midoriya could do something like that, Ashido exclaimed. A bunch of people had gathered in the common room after an early dinner, and it had been Kirishima who'd brought up how manly Midoriya's fight had been. Honestly, it was less manly and more brutal. She certainly hadn't believed the innocent green bean was capable of that. But hey, everyone can be surprising. Her grandfather, for example, actually holds the world record for his quirk, managing to produce a few drops of an acid so potent it could only be stored in containers of solid light. Sure, he'd passed out for a few days after, but it was still surprising to see. Yeah, I'll admit, I didn't see that one coming. Mito really fought dirty, and the guy knew what he was doing. It's not like he was flailing his arms around trying to hit someone. That was some brutal precision. Kaminari added. Bakugo had left long ago in a huff, probably angry that they were talking about Midoriya, and something was going on there. What was it? Well, she wasn't sure herself, and she tried asking questions about it, but nobody really knew anything. Aside from her finally figuring out they went to the same middle school, and that didn't make her feel any better. Shouldn't they be friends? I don't know who taught him those martial arts strategies. They're nothing like I've seen. Ojiro admitted. Maybe one of my old teachers knows. I'll ask her about it, maybe. Well, I'll say one thing, Kero. Tsuyu added, Aizawa had ruled it a draw, because Midoriya couldn't stand to claim his victory. But I think he pretty much won the fight. Still, it just feels too much like a sudden shift. Something is going on here that we're not seeing. I don't know what it is, but we're missing some of the puzzle here. Jiro pointed out, coming back from the kitchen with a glass of water. I'm all for people keeping their secrets, but there's something here to the puzzle we're not getting. And we shouldn't be pushy or anything. I just think we should keep an eye on Midoriya. Make sure he's well and all. Kirishima was about to add something, but the door opened, revealing Midoriya walking back inside. Hey guys, I'm back. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Hey Mido, glad to see you're all healed up, she called out. Hope you're okay after that fight. She noticed that Midoriya tensed slightly, and his face was reddened, like he'd been crying. But he just smiled. I'm doing fine, but Recovery Girl suggested that I should go to sleep early. Have a great night, everyone. He called out, waving to everyone as he walked up the stairs to his room. Anyway, she said after Midoriya left, I have a few theories of my own about why Midoriya is such a stone-cold badass in the fight. Alright, my stars, that is the end of that chapter. Half of this chapter was recorded 3 weeks ago, before I went on holiday, and this is me back now! Yippee! The second part was recorded now. But, yeah, now that I'm back from holiday, I will finish this series, and then I have a K-pop Demon Hunter fic that I have ready for you guys. Again, exploring more fandoms. So I'm gonna try to get that one done after this, or maybe in between chapters. But we still only have 2 more left, so we'll see. And then after that, I have no more fics for now. I will be going around asking for other fics. But genuinely right now, I have no idea what fics to do. So recommendations I will be so grateful for any recommendations. As long as they're like, complete. Well, they don't have to be completed as long as they're still ongoing and still getting completed this year. If they haven't been completed since like 3 years ago, I won't be podficking those, as I don't know if the author is going to continue that story. I don't want to leave it off on a cliffhanger, and I don't know if the creator is still replying to comments. Also, I won't be podficking recommendations that seem a little too long. Because again, I don't right now because technically I've been doing this for a while, but I'm still not used to doing really, really long fics. So I'd really like it if you guys gave me a reasonable amount of like words in a fic if you guys are recommending anything. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this chapter. I know I did. And I really hope to see you in the next ones. Don't forget to take care of yourselves, drink, eat, and do whatever you need to do. Any recommendations can go down in the comments below, as well as reactions to this chapter, or any thoughts and feelings you have on it. As well as my Discord server and socials are down in the description below, so you can please go check them out. And that's all. So I hope to see you in the next one. Bye, my stars.